It's interesting, Kushi, that you asked that question in terms of courage. I mean, which is, how do we find the courage to do that? You didn't even say the energy or the willpower. Of course, they're all wrapped up there, and of course you know that, but that's not what you asked. But it was exquisitely worded, I would say, because, it does take courage, doesn't it? It's courage, by the way, is the spiritual quality. And what is the title of the book in the Yogananda series? Calmness, Courage, and Conviction? No. How to gain calmness, courage, and confidence. So, there's these, I forget what they're called, but they're the Yogananda series of books of different, boy, I'm blocking right now, but the first one was How to Be Happy All the Time. Wisdom of Yogananda series, yeah. And there's probably 7 or 8 of them now. They're really great books. And I would say, get that book on courage, because it's calmness, courage, and confidence. And that's no mistake, of course. All 3 of those qualities are necessary. Again, that takes willpower to have that courage and to stick to it. It takes willpower. When I was rereading for the 50th time, maybe, the chapter on on energy in Raja Yoga, or maybe it's not 50, maybe it's 25, but it's a lot. That chapter, the philosophy part of that chapter, it's so wonderful. I mean, I'm trying to speak to you, Kushi, and I'm bringing it up for a reason. Open the Raja Yoga book and read it. But he first defines energy, which is essential when people who are taking Raja Yoga, we think of them as mostly first coming on the path. Though, as all of us know, we can all come back and take the Raja Yoga course again and again and again. We just keep learning, because you can see more wherever you are. When it's your first time through, that's what you see. So he's explaining it so that people who are first hearing about energy, the most important concept on the spiritual path, I think for beginners particularly, he explains it that way so they can get it. But at some point, after he's talked about energy and explaining how everything is energy manifested from only one true source of energy, this superconscious essence of all that is. I mean, we call it God, we call it superconsciousness, we have so many names for it, but it's all that was or ever was or ever will be. All that is. But it looks different in different forms. We are all here because we would love to make our way through that star and get back to that source, rejoin the common source. But we're stuck out here on a physical plane, and we're working hard. And it's good. It's great that we're here and we're taking the opportunity. But we are still that same energy. That's what we need to remember. That's why that affirmation is so beautiful. So he talks about that because he's trying to say to people, there's nothing in the world you can't have, do, be, nothing, because it's all the same energy that you are made of. And as soon as we can realize that everything's a part of all that is, we begin to see how to magnetize, very important word here, and manifest that which we really want. Once we know we're energy and we can control it, energy is magnetic. Energy has a proton and an electron. It's how magnets and everything work. And we are that. So right now we're magnetizing in our lives, that which is consistent with where we are, the thoughts that we have, the desires that we have, that's what we draw. As we spiritualize, as we become more aware of our spiritual nature, our magnetism shifts. Soon we want a guru, and we respond to that magnetism. Then we want a spiritual community or path. Then we want higher and higher things. Anyway, but at some point in the chapter, he brings in willpower, and ultimately he mentions courage. So he's saying right away, right in Raja Yoga, you can have all the energy you want, but if you don't have willpower, you can't do anything with it. Hence the phrase that Master said, Yogananda said, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The greater the flow of energy, the greater the magnetism, right? And Kushi, this is an answer to your question. What does Swamiji say about that phrase? The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The greater the flow of energy, the greater the magnetism. And he says, this is so important, Swamiji's words, memorize it, emblazon it in your mind. This single phrase can revolutionize your life, not your mind here, your life. That single phrase can revolutionize your life. So imagine if you're in a predicament and you're looking for the will to change, the courage to change, you just start repeating that because our guru and our main teacher told us, memorize it, emblazon it in your mind. That's a powerful phrase for a teacher to say. It's not just a throwaway, nothing is. So I think in those ways we find courage, because the generic answer is, again, just keep going on the path. Courage comes. Courage is a spiritual quality. In all of that, the spiritual quality is courage. And I wish I had that little book. Probably there's 100 stories and suggestions in a book this big about how to find calmness, courage, and conviction. I've read it. I think I even taught a class on it years ago. Great little book. And it will give you ideas for how to do that in the world. Plus, it will give you the inspiration to own that quality more and more, to take it deeper and deeper. Courage, because that this example just came up. I told you Kushi and Piyush have this 5-year-old daughter, Adu, and she just started school. And there was a discussion going on about Living Wisdom School versus any one of these private schools. I forget which one, Challenger, that she got registered in for kindergarten. So she was 4 when she started. Actually, she subsequently turned 5. But this isn't them. They respect this. But and they live, unfortunately, a little too far away and with these busy lives to get their daughter to this Living Wisdom School that we have. But this Living Wisdom School that we have is a remarkable place to help your children start in life. I mean, and I said to Piyush, because Piyush is brilliant and tends to be a little more intellectual than Kushi does, who's also brilliant, but heart wide open. They're different. They're man and woman. They've been trained in different ways. It is what it is. And so Piyush would push more for the most academic, the best. I'm going to set my daughter off that way. And Kushi's like, oh, but it's Ananda and it's Living Wisdom. She doesn't talk that way. She's very strong. Also very smart. But they balance each other in some of these ways. But the discussion was around, do you have the courage to see that what doesn't look, it doesn't look like Challenger. Nope, doesn't. By intention, it doesn't look like Challenger. It's not as intellectual in that way. It won't appeal to the masses in the world. But the students who get out of middle school here are in about the 96th to 98th percentile of students in the entire United States. That's the whole United States. They may even be higher if the sample was something else. They've been so well educated that it looks different. Doesn't look like what the world has been saying, oh, Challenger. You know, that takes courage to make a choice that your heart is telling you is a good choice. Their choice had nothing to do with that, and they may decide in the future if we can make it convenient for them to get their child over here, because it's an hour's drive and it's impossible. Actually, right now, it's impossible. But you know, when we were having those discussions, I was saying to myself, this takes courage. It really does, to go against what the world, never mind the world, what about your parents? What about two sets of parents who are going to say, really? I don't know what the parents say in this instance, but in many instances, Living Wisdom School doesn't look like the school that people have had. And particularly, I will say, this is what Neha was telling me yesterday, how much she was pushed, because she was born and raised in India. She didn't leave until college. And to get into a good college in India, you have to be at the very top of your class, or you lose a lot of choices about what you're going to do with your life. So the parents are always, it becomes what they do. They push, push, push. It's torture for the kids. If you happen to go over there as a teacher of self-realization, and the people you're talking to open up to you, they tell you how brutal it is. They don't want to have to do some of the things that they have to do to get into the college. Anyway, it's difficult. So I'm saying you're going against culture, you're going against family. We're up against a lot to choose God. That's what I want to say. It's not the way of the world yet. It will be. We're in a different yuga, and we're up against different challenges. But it takes courage because we know the truth. So we have to ask this question, how do I get this courage? And then act on that. Get that book, read that book, because answers will come to you. Read the Raja Yoga chapter. Again, feel the inspiration and say, I'm going to tune in to my intuition. And when it comes, I will try as hard as I can to listen to it, even when all of these voices are telling me otherwise. How does anybody think those of us who are here got here? My friends and family didn't say to me, wow, I heard about this place called Ananda, go there. I mean, my friends and family didn't say to me, live in this tiny little apartment that's got a lot of physical problems. And when I had it within my means to live in a very nice home here, and they didn't say that. They thought I lost my mind, seriously. But I knew that I had found what I needed, not lost what I needed. And that takes courage. There are people here who have owned those exquisite homes, who have ultimately sold them and moved into our community. The physical plane sacrificed a lot. On the spiritual plane, gained an infinite amount. And this is what's at stake, and this is what we're talking about. We can only do it when we're ready. I don't want to sit up here and have it be like This is you have to move when it's right and when you don't want to break. You can't move in a way that's going to break something in you. Though the last line, if you can pull it up, Piyush, of Yudhishthira's letter, which is a quote by this saint, Frank Laubach. And I don't take the time to tell you his story, but because remember, I'm talking about, and this is important, as a counselor, I feel this all the time. How can I listen carefully enough that I can help somebody stretch, but not break? Because if they break, they feel terrible about themselves. If they break, they leave the path. Having said that, listen to this line. Speak very clearly.
Yeah. And God knows we need it. If our destiny is to grow on and on and on into some far more beautiful creatures than we are now, with more of the ideals of Christ, that means that we need to have the shells broken quite frequently so that we can grow.
Could you all hear that clearly? Yeah. We need to have, if we want to transcend where we are, if we want to be more Christ-like, if that's what we truly want, he's saying we need to have the shells. He means not the body, he means the ego. He means everything that we're attached to, everything that we're holding on to. The only way to get out of where we are is to have the shell broken again and again. Otherwise, how can we grow? What happens with the little chick? The shell has to break so the chick can come out and grow into being a chicken, right? I mean, otherwise it's stuck and it dies or it becomes an egg. I don't know all of how that works, or it was an egg. I don't know, but anyway. But it's a good image, actually. It's powerful. That's a powerful line that he chose to add there.